The most massive destruction of civilians in history happened without an atomic bomb. One city burned in a single night, and this was not the end of the war. It was the beginning of a new era of destruction. When we talk about World War II, we are usually shown one image: a blinding flash, a mushroom cloud, an instant apocalypse. We were taught that this is what the end of the world looks like. But reality was more terrifying. In March 1945, Tokyo did not disappear in a flash. It disappeared in heat, fire, and air that could not be breathed. No atomic bomb, no radiation, no single decisive explosion. The city was not destroyed, it burned. This distinction matters because any city can burn. That night, temperatures in Tokyo reached levels at which people died before the flames touched them. Fire consumed oxygen, wind fed the inferno, streets became furnaces. People ran and suffocated. They hid and collapsed. They jumped into water and found it boiling. This was not chaos, it was physics. And this is what separates Tokyo from the atomic bomb. A nuclear strike is a weapon. A firestorm is the collapse of the environment. The city itself became a killing system. And this is where the danger truly begins. Because the same conditions are now forming across the planet, without war, without bombers, without commands. Heat, dry air, overheated cities, dense urban structures, wind. This is no longer military technology. It is the byproduct of civilization. In 1945, fire came from the sky. In the 21st century, it rises from below, from an overheated planet. And if back then it lasted one night, today it is stretched over time, slow, gradual, and therefore more dangerous, because humans adapt to slow destruction. This film is not about war, and not about the past. It is about the fact that the deadliest destruction in history happened without an atomic bomb, and that is exactly why it can happen again. The question is no longer who will use nuclear weapons. The question is which city will be next, and whether we will recognize the moment when it is already too late. The atomic bomb terrifies because it is absolute. One explosion, one moment, one point. Climate feels less frightening, and that is exactly why it is deadlier. Because climate is a process. It does not scream, it accumulates. Tokyo proved that a city does not need a nuclear weapon to be destroyed. It only needs conditions. Today, those conditions are emerging not in one place, but across the entire world. Heat waves, wildfires, smog, energy grid failures. War destroys buildings. Climate destroys livability. After wars, cities are rebuilt. After climate collapse, cities are abandoned. This is the distinction we refuse to face. A nuclear bomb is an event. Climate collapse is an environment. We like to believe that modern cities are safe, that glass, concrete, algorithms, and technology have placed us beyond the reach of collapse. That whatever happened to cities in the past cannot happen to us. This belief is not optimism, it is denial. Modern cities are not fortresses. They are fragile systems built on assumptions that climate is now breaking. Every megacity on Earth depends on a narrow range of conditions: stable temperature, continuous electricity, reliable water, predictable weather. Remove just one of these and the city does not bend, it fails. Heat is the most dangerous stressor because it attacks everything at once. It does not need to destroy buildings, it only needs to push systems beyond their limits. When extreme heat arrives, the first thing to break is not concrete, it is electricity. Air conditioners turn from comfort into weapons against the grid. Millions of units activate simultaneously. Demand spikes beyond design capacity. Transformers overheat, power lines sag, blackouts spread. Once electricity fails, the illusion of control collapses. Elevators stop, hospitals switch to emergency power, cooling systems fail, water pumps lose pressure, communication networks degrade. Within hours, a modern city begins to resemble something ancient, dense, hot, immobile, and dangerous. Heat does not kill evenly. It targets density, it targets poverty, it targets height and isolation. People trapped in high-rise buildings cannot escape when elevators stop. Elderly residents die quietly in overheated apartments. Outdoor workers collapse in the streets. Emergency services become overwhelmed, then paralyzed. This is not a hypothetical future. It is already happening. Every year, heat waves kill more people than hurricanes, floods, and wildfires combined. And unlike storms, heat leaves no dramatic ruins, only bodies and silence. Modern cities amplify heat by design. Asphalt absorbs it, concrete stores it, glass reflects it inward. At night, cities do not cool, they radiate accumulated energy back into the air. This is known as the urban heat island effect, but the name hides the reality. Cities are becoming thermal traps. Tokyo in 1945 reached this state in one night due to fire. Modern cities are approaching it slowly due to climate. The mechanism is the same, only the trigger is different. Technology does not save cities from this process, it accelerates their dependence. Smart systems require power, cooling requires power, water distribution requires power, data centers require massive cooling, which requires more power. Each layer of sophistication increases fragility. The more complex the system, the more catastrophic its failure. This is why modern megacities are not safer than historical ones. They are more vulnerable. In 1945, Tokyo became a death trap because heat and wind overwhelmed human limits. In the 21st century, cities risk becoming death traps because heat overwhelms systems humans cannot live without. And unlike war, there is no ceasefire. Heat does not negotiate, it does not retreat, it does not end. The illusion of control persists because collapse does not happen all at once. It arrives in fragments, a blackout here, a water shortage there, a record-breaking summer that becomes the new normal. People adapt until they cannot. That is the most dangerous phase, because adaptation delays fear, and fear is often the last motivator for change. Modern cities are not collapsing dramatically. They are eroding function by function. And once a city loses the ability to keep its population alive during extreme conditions, it is no longer a city, it is a liability. History does not repeat images, it repeats mechanisms. We remember the atomic bomb because it is visual, a flash, a cloud, a clear before and after. It fits the human need for narrative closure. Climate collapse offers no such comfort. There is no single moment to point to, no date that history books will agree on, no image that defines the end. That is why it is more dangerous than any weapon humanity has ever built. Tokyo was not destroyed by a miracle of technology. It was destroyed by conditions. Those conditions are no longer rare. The most massive destruction of civilians in history happened without an atomic bomb. This fact should terrify us, not because of the past, but because of the present. It means that civilization does not need enemies to destroy itself. It only needs to destabilize the environment it depends on. War is intentional. Climate collapse is systemic. War requires decisions. Climate collapse requires inertia. That makes it harder to stop.
After wars, societies rebuild because the environment still supports life. After climate-driven collapse, rebuilding becomes meaningless. You cannot rebuild a city where water is unreliable. You cannot rebuild a city where heat makes outdoor life impossible. You cannot rebuild a city where energy systems fail every summer. At that point, people do not rebuild, they leave. And when people leave, cities do not die explosively, they hollow out. Infrastructure decays, economies contract, services vanish, security collapses. This is not the end of civilization. It is worse. It is fragmentation. Climate collapse does not destroy the world, it rearranges it violently. Some regions become uninhabitable, others become overcrowded. Migration accelerates, borders harden, conflict follows scarcity. The irony is brutal. Humanity fears the wrong apocalypse. We prepare for nuclear war, asteroid impacts, and pandemics, sudden events with clear triggers. But the real existential threat operates without spectacle. It advances while we argue, while we normalize records, while we tell ourselves that next year will be different. Tokyo burned in one night. That shock ended in illusion. Climate collapse burns cities slowly. That slowness preserves denial. And denial is the final defense mechanism of collapsing systems. This film does not ask whether climate change is real. That question is already obsolete. The only relevant question left is this: how many cities can fail before we admit that the system itself is unstable? Because once a city crosses the threshold where heat, infrastructure, and population density intersect, recovery is no longer guaranteed. The city does not explode, it stops functioning. And that is how civilizations actually end, not in fireballs, but in silence, abandonment, and memory. The atomic bomb taught humanity what instant destruction looks like. Tokyo taught us something far more important, that the environment itself can become the weapon. And today, that weapon is being loaded not by generals, but by normality. The question is no longer whether this will happen again. The question is, where will you be when the city you depend on can no longer protect you from the heat?